Hello and welcome back to Seaside Garage. It's time to bring on a new hat, but a very old friend. This is my Saab. This is my Saab 900 Turbo 8-valve Commander Special Edition from Switzerland. To be honest, I know it's been a while since I did any work on this one. If I were to guess when it was, I would say maybe 5 months ago or something like that I was working on this. But I just checked the playlist on the Saab, and you can go and check that because I have videos from the beginning where I picked this car up and what I have done so far on it, which is not a lot other than to get it to run. And actually it was quite a lot of different kind of stuff I did on the car. I can't even remember myself. But I checked the date on the last video I made, and that was January the 14th of 2023 last year. So it's almost exactly to this date. It's the 10th of January right now. It's almost exactly a year ago. That's pretty crazy. I don't know why I have been postponing this project, because I really adore this car and it would be the perfect daily driver for me at some point. But I have just been a little bit afraid to dig into this project because it is most likely going to be a rather big project. This Saab was living in a garden underneath a tarp for at least 10 years and maybe even a bit more than that. Not only that, it wasn't on concrete or anything like that, it was on grass. It's a recipe to destroy a car completely, unfortunately. So I was really not very optimistic when I dragged it home, but I got it really cheap. I paid around 400 euros, 450 euros, I think, for it. So it wasn't too bad. It was pretty cheap, in my opinion. So I was ready to just take the gamble and maybe just make a video of me getting it to run and then maybe part out some of the parts because, yeah, it could be too far gone. But it turned out that it didn't really seem that bad. There is rust. There is rust, especially where these tends to rot. Which is, for instance, at the drive shaft tunnel up front. It's pretty bad up there. I don't think I really have been thorough when I looked at this last time because, yeah, I was just afraid to find something severe. But I will have to do that, of course. And also the engine is running now, but it's not running very nicely. So there's going to be a lot of work on that one also. But the biggest deal about this one, and the reason I think why I had such a hard time actually getting started on this, is the paintwork. Because as you can see on the roof, the paint is flaking off and there's blisters all over the place. At first glance, I thought the roof was the worst part, so I thought that maybe I could paint the roof. Also, the bonnet is bad, so I could paint the bonnet, and the trunk is also bad. I realized pretty quickly that it's the entire paintwork on this car that got those blisters that you can just... Yeah, it's just the lacquer has just let go of the underneath. I don't think it's because of rust coming from the inside. I think it's because of moisture. I have seen that before when cars have been covered by tarps or car covers, that the paint can sort of get these osmosis kind of things in them. That's the reason why I never cover my cars. I'd much rather come back to a very dirty car in at the storage facility than having these kinds of problems, because I don't like them. But this car needs a complete respray, and maybe I have done it before. I actually painted a Saab Sonnet some years ago. The result wasn't great, but I found out that it's possible to do a pretty good result when I did that, because the areas where I really tried my best got pretty good actually. And if I really worked with my impatience and really tried my best, I could do a pretty good paint job myself, I think. But I have a feeling that it's just not my cup of tea. I think I will be too bored. Maybe not. Maybe that's actually not the right word. I just don't think I have the skills to be consistent enough with filler and sanding and all that to give it a nice paint job. So what I think will end up happening on this one is that I will hopefully find someone who can help me with giving this car a new proper paint job. But firstly, I want all the other stuff to be all right. I can actually MOT the car before that, so I know it's fine. And then I think even though it's not a Seaside Garage project to do a respray, because if I respray this car, it would look pretty much brand new. That's not really my style, but this is too far gone to make it cool the way it is. My Citroen CX is looking horrific also, but I think that's a nice look. It's a fine patina, it's savable, I can polish it and all that. This though, this would just be destroyed within very, very few months outside in the rain, because this stuff will flake off and then it will get rust spots everywhere and it would just be destroyed. So I think the right thing to do with the Commander is to give it a respray. Also, the Saab 900 Turbo models have went through the roof recently. So the pricing on these are getting up there. So it would actually be economically feasible to give it a respray, I think, because it would be worth it. Anyway, there is a lot of work that needs to be done on this car before we are talking about a respray. As you can see, the boot is open because it doesn't work. I just picked it up in at the storage facility yesterday. I had to change the fuel pump because it didn't work anymore, which was a little bit silly because it's actually the second time that I changed the fuel pump on this one. Firstly, the first time I changed it with a used one, so it was just, yeah, they don't like to stand like that. Now it's got a new one and it's working and it can fire up, which is also very nice. But this is a Saab 900 Turbo Commander edition, which is a special edition from Switzerland. There's not a lot of special things about it. There was a rumor that it had more power than the normal ones. It turns out that it's just a 155 horsepower 8-valve engine. But the special things include the Inca alloy wheels, the color scheme, the stripe, the Commander, and then a rather special interior with this kind of color. The steering wheel is supposed to be that color also, but that is missing. It also got some gauges up there. It looks like someone has had some fun with it in the max power days, but it's actually supposed to have 3 gauges up there. Normally you have the radio on a Saab 900 there, but not on the Commander edition. But another special thing about this one, and that's not just special for the Commander, but this is a 2-door sedan version of it. You normally see Saab 900 Turbo as the coupe models with the actually, if you look at it at poor lighting, it looks like a Porsche 911. But it goes straight down there and you've got a big hatch that opens up. Not on this one. And normally I would prefer the coupe model, but a 2-door sedan version is looking extremely cool in my opinion. And it's very rare, actually. So that's pretty cool. Quirky has been a theme on my channel for the last year, at least, with all the Citroen business. Because Citroen tends to do everything a little bit different than anybody else. The Saab is way more normal than a Citroen, but still it did do quite a lot of things differently than other manufacturers. One thing is they are born from jets. Saab also made fighter planes, and they took a lot of those details and put them into the cars. It's a bit of a gimmick, to be honest, but some of it is pretty clever. But one of the fun things about the Saab is the way the bonnet opens. Not only does it open this way, it's also sliding up, forward, stops, and then another hinge flips it open like this. And that gives quite a lot of access to the engine bay. That makes it easier to work on some things and harder to work on other things, but that's just the way it is. It's pretty easy to take this one off though. I actually went on a trip through Europe in my old Saab 900 Turbo, 5 persons in a coupe model, 5,000 kilometers through Europe. In Germany we had clutch problems and we could remove this one and get access to that because yes, the clutch is up there. I just told you that Saab isn't as quirky as Citroen, but this engine is the other way around than normal. When you look at it, if you didn't know any better, you would think it was a rear-wheel drive car, but it isn't. It's a front-wheel driven car, even though the engine is pointing to the rear axle. Not only that, it's actually pointing that way because this is the back of the engine, this is the front of the engine. We got the clutch up here. And back here, which is a nightmare, you got all the belts and the generator and the water pump and all that. So it's flipped, and the gearbox is underneath, and the gearbox is chain driven from the clutch and down. It's very different, but it's really cool because normally you would think a clutch job is hard to do. I think on my Saab 900 Turbo 16 valve, I did it 2 times, I think. And the second time I did it in a couple of hours, I think. Maybe 1.5 hours or something like that. It's very easy to change the clutch on one of these, and you don't have to lift anything heavy at all, and that's nice. But what was also very different, at least back in the early 80s, was that they were turbo driven. The 900 was where Saab really shined with the turbo models, and it's not at all the first car with turbos, but it is some of the first cars that were really reliable and also turbocharged. The turbo is right there, very close to the battery. There's supposed to be a heat shell in between here. I don't have that, and I need that because it will just melt the battery in no time. It gets really, really hot. This is the 8-valve engine derived from the Triumph engine. As far as I know, these were supposed to be V8s, but it's just half a V8. My previous Saab was a 16-valve. This is an 8-valve. The 16-valve was able to do 175 horsepower from stock. You could get it to 190 using a red APC box. Of course, I had that in mind. And they are actually able to produce quite a lot of power. The 8-valve is rated at 155. The rumors about the Commander was that these were producing around 196, I think it was. But it's a rumor, and I think I know why, because in the brochure for the Commander, they wrote the wrong numbers, at least at one of the figures. So I think that's where the rumors started, but I don't know. The early 8-valve engines did not come with intercooler. This one does, though. This got the same intercooler setup as the 16-valve. That gives the car, I don't think it produces more power, but it produces the power more consistently because it doesn't heat soak and loses power when you floor it a couple of times. And while the Saab turbo cars from the 80s are not very quick, from 0 to 60, they are pretty quick in the overtaking parts of the speed range. So going from 60 to maybe 90 kilometers per hour is really quick in one of these. They are made to overtake. They are not made to go quickly to 100, and that makes sense and is very, very Saab-like. But well, I think it's time to start working on this one. And my plan is to try to focus on this a little bit. I also have the Citroën Mahari over there, and it's taking up a lot of space, so I might work on that one at the same time as this. But I think this will be, I hope this will be the content for the next few months at least. We're just gonna have to see. Anyway, if you're new to this channel, I would advise you to go beneath this video in the description and find the playlist on the Saab 900 Turbo, just to catch up with the stuff that I have done to it so far and the story about it. I will have to do that myself at least, just to remember what I actually did. I can remember I took apart the K-Jet system, and that is mechanical sorcery. So the fact that it's still working is pretty amazing. I know a lot of you guys have been waiting on this car, because I get quite a few comments on all the other projects that I work on that, where's the Saab? And I can fully understand that, especially now that I'm looking at it. I cannot really understand why I parked it. But it is a big project, and it's important to try to keep focus on big projects. So we'll see if I'm able to do that. I will most likely buy some other projects while working on this one, just to distract me a little bit. Who knows? Anyway, thanks for watching this video, and see you in the next one, where we hopefully do something to the Saab. See you in the next one. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Do, do.